Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and welcome to this test automation webinar from Virtuoso, test automation for the healthcare industry, where we'll be focusing on that particular industry vertical and the problems and solutions that Virtuoso can offer for it. My name is Ryan T. Thornton. I will be guiding you through the next 30 minutes, as is incumbent upon me as VP of Marketing. It's my contractual obligation, but it's also a bit of a pleasure. I am ably abetted by a man who I know very well, though, this is our inaugural webinar together. A man without compare. He's a Solutions engineer. It is Mr. Todd Norton. Todd, please shy away from asking him about the teams that he supports in sport. Hello, Todd. How are you?
Doing well, Ryan. Thank you. How are you?
I'm all the better for having you on a webinar together at long last. So that's who. And as night follows day, agenda follows who. We will look at the current pressures, the process changes, new technology, and then let's face it, we'll get down to the good bit where I shut up. Todd jumps in and shows you on a real life healthcare application just what we can do to fix some of those problems. So before an ado has been in any way furthered, I would like to start by saying we are Virtuoso, and our motto is that ship gets done faster with us. We increase the speed of delivery, and we do that by combining both the ease and accessibility of codeless automation without losing a lot of the versatility that you get with a coded solution. It's functional UI, end-to-end, and integration tests for any web application. It's an easy-to-use platform that gives you a shitstorm. Yeah, it's the good kind, though. So what's happening in healthcare? I think probably for the last 10 years, maybe even 20, you've heard about rapid digitalization, but it's continuing, possibly with more pace than ever before, given current circumstances. There are lots of pressures on there. And when we talk about healthcare test automation, we're not talking about one application. We're talking about a series of interrelated applications and processes and how you test those all together. So that's kind of challenging in and of itself, and to place it into one kind of vertical is to not necessarily understand its complexity. So yeah, it's complex. We have patient care and support, electronic health records, which is, I think, what we'll be showing today. And of course, they have, they in many countries in the world, that there needs to be some testing of those. You've also got legal implications for any kind of data breach, payment operations, healthcare, like any other anything else, needs to make sure that they can process payments. Time to market, as everything's moving faster, releasing faster, has become so critical. So then when testing and QA come in, there's large test suites that are often almost impossible to maintain. I use the term that even if you can author at speed, you are authoring checks your maintenance burden can't cache. This results often in a return to manual, turning them all off. All the tests crash. Oh, that's normal. Just turn them off. We think we're ready for a release. And a lot of time just spent fixing flaky tests. You're not actually finding bugs. We're not going back to first principles. There's possibly a lot of redundancy, possibly a series of tests that have been made by X, Y, and Z who have now left the company, and no one quite knows what they do, but it's nice to get them all green. And indeed, I said if the speed of authoring could deliver, but I think what we'll show you today is, in terms of velocity of speed of authoring, is something much different to what has been seen up until now. You solve these problems, you're going to get your ROI. and have a test automation strategy that is fit for the future. So how do we overcome this? It's a need for speed. And we get speed in two ways, one of which is building, and the other which is maintaining. So we are offering, or we purport to offer, and it's I purport to offer, and it's going to be Todd's job to support my wild marketing claims, though I don't think they're as wild, and I don't think he'll have that difficult a job doing so, that you are able to get in Sprint zero maintenance test automation. And this is for your functional UI testing, multiple browser-based applications. There should be a hyphen between browser and based. I'll be speaking to whoever wrote this. Your EHR portals, front ends, business systems for processing payments, email inboxes for notifications and accounts. Like I said at the beginning, it's complicated, interrelated systems, not to mention the fact that you may be wanting to make API calls, store them, and work through them there. Document validation is also another area that is fairly important, making sure that you can download and assert against PDF patient documents. So what we're going to offer you here is a glimpse at what natural language live authoring, which is pretty much coding, but in the code that you learned at school or kindergarten, with real-time feedback, simultaneously executing while authoring. The fact that you can build from requirements or wireframes, everything fits into your CI/CD, which I suppose you expect from any tool nowadays. Readable reports, screenshots, root cause analysis, the whole kit and caboodle. With which I fear I have spoken for my 7 minutes, which was agreed with Todd at the beginning of this, which I will give way to his superior demonstration skills. Take it away, Todd.
Well, I appreciate that. Let me go ahead and dive in. A great introduction, by the way. So I thank you so much, Ryan. So let's show you a little bit of the magic that Ryan was talking about. In all honesty, it's not magic. It's a very, very useful and helpful platform. So let's dive in, shall we? Now, what I'm going to show you is just a very quick overview of an example that I built recently using an online system that is effectively creating patient appointments. Now, you can do quite a bit more, but as we actually walk through and see how the system is performing in real time, with this embedded browser over here on the right, you can see we're executing the steps here from the left in plain English. We are looking for elements. We are clicking on things, clicking on creates, buttons, links. We're actually going through here and creating a new patient. So much like a patient would if they needed to schedule time with a general practitioner or a specialist, right? They just log in and we're validating that information. We're using a bit of data-driven testing here. So you can see here that we have a variable behind, or a value behind this variable. So you can absolutely do data-driven testing with the platform. And I put in this pause here just to show that, one, you can pause mid-test, you can for quick visual validation, but also to give you an idea of where we are, because the system does move fairly quickly, it moves as fast as it can. So it's just nice to take a pause and understand where we're at. So we've created this Barbara Smith. Right, she's coming in here and now she will fill out and select from a calendar the time that her appointment or desired appointment is coming up. So we'll move through this pause. We're just going to continue on. All right, so we're clicking on the calendar. We're finding a spot with John Smith. The system's looking for appointments, right? And it just, as we move through the scenario, one thing to highlight while it's actually doing this, you can jump in and out of individual steps to edit them. See those screenshots that Ryan was talking about for quick visual validation, right? And then going back into the editors, any side effects. So if the page took a minute to load, that type of thing will tell you about what's going on. We're looking for a specific time and element, and then we're actually going to store that information as a local variable that you can assert to later on. So as we go through, picking the option here, John Smith's about to create this appointment. And then we are actually, to kind of wrap a bow on everything, we are creating an API call to the backend just to make sure that we're passing correctly the information for that appointment time, right? And then after we have that API call to the database to make sure that the appointment time is correct, we're just asserting it against what we created up here. So again, quite a bit that you can do with the platform. It's a pretty lightweight, but fairly standard example of not only interspersing just the natural language programming, typing in plain English, but also making an API call to do that full functional end-to-end piece to make sure not only does the front-end system work like your users would expect, but does the database and the back-end systems match all of that information and kind of holistically look at your entire system output. Now, I did run this example to show you an output of just a test summary. I'd like to highlight this a little bit. So some of the things you can get right here in this report, right? We're all good. Everything's passed. We have the environment, the times that each step took. We have any kind of side effects, right? Barbara. And then you can also get network requests and console logs that happen throughout. So if you need to go back and look through those. What I didn't find in this is actually any kind of self-maintenance. So to show you how we do that, the system, whenever we execute, we're doing a couple things, right? The system's actually running through the functionality, but on each step, you'll get a before and after interaction screenshot. This is a classic example I use about putting a credit card number into a credit card field. So we very quickly understand we could do that. The step passed appropriately. We're all good there. Now, there was a little bit of changes in the background of the code level, right? We've updated, or the developer rather updated the title with a placeholder, more declarative class name, but it's still an input type text. So as the system runs through your test, it's running this machine learning algorithm on every step to not only say, is this the same element, but does it still work? Regardless of changes in the background, does the system still functionally complete the step as dictated by the test case? And if it does, then the functionality still works and everything is all gravy, if I could throw in an American phrase, all gravy. You get all of this information here. You can even help populate and improve the model in the background. So a lot of flexibility and time off your hands, because that test maintenance, regardless of somebody adding a placeholder, the functionality is still there. So the test still functionally works from an end-to-end idea, and then away you go. Now, I get this question, what happens when a test fails, right? So when that occurs, and this is actually an example of that previous Power Diary example of the healthcare example that we had of failing. And I ran this on some of our cross-browser functionality, but this one specifically on an iPad. Number of questions I have is, one, do you have cross-browser functionality? Yes, we absolutely do. It's very, very easy to choose. But two, the other piece is folks are concerned about the functionality of their app when it's shown on a mobile browser. So you can see here with the screenshot, we get this idea. I'll zoom in a little bit. Get this idea that, yes, it was done in the mobile Safari. Now, at the moment of failure, we're going to tell you why something failed. So in this case, just could not find the correct length, probably because the calendar was collapsed or maybe doesn't expand in the mobile setting. You can go in and quickly refactor the test if you need to, but you will also get this root cause analysis. So what the root cause analysis is, it's the execution history. Now, again, this is a new example that I was created pretty recently, so only a couple passes and a couple failures so far. You get this visual analysis. Now, I've never run this on an iPad before this failure, but you can see here very quickly we'll populate a previous past screenshot and then the current screenshot, so you can very quickly visually compare. You can comment if you need to bring in some additional eyes from some of your colleagues. You can absolutely do that just by adding them. Very simple to do. This could be set up with Slack, Teams, email. As part of the API, you can incorporate with other systems. And then you will also get the page source, network information, and console logs all at the time of failure. Now, these aren't populating because the element just couldn't be found. But if it was something that maybe it was a 404 error, or if I could jump back into this previous example, if I do the same thing, I've run this one a couple extra times. You get the page source, network information, both searchable and filterable, and console logs, all at the moment of failure. So you can very quickly say this was a bug in this case. Maybe it truly was a bug. You can catalog it, go in and fix whatever needs to be fixed, whether it's the network or maybe some shoddy programming in the background, whatever it might be. Go back, fix the error, rerun the test, and then away you go. Now, that is to say, and I kind of ran through things fairly quickly, the system, regardless of what your system is, as long as we can access it, electronic health records, maybe it's patient scheduling, whatever it might be, as long as it's accessible via URL, whether that's in a production environment or staging in dev. If it's on a network and it's accessible via a browser, we can absolutely help you test it. So Ryan, jump in here. Again, that's much quicker than I typically do, but I did want to kind of show at least a little glimpse into some of the day-to-day pieces. What else might be, if I can rely on you a little bit, what else might be powerful to show some of the folks today?
I think we've shown really well, the maintenance aspect and how kind of tests run. I think it might be an idea to have a look at just some live authoring.
Sure.
And some of the dev tools that you can get in there, kind of, going into that advanced mode. And this is putting you on the spot, but I think it's quite cool. This is like some Uber black box testing. Just go off and write a test, see what happens.
Yeah, let's see. So we have this final checkpoint. We have the assertion works correctly. We did the API call. We can see that, yes, we do need to actually save this appointment that we have. So what live authoring is as you write each step in our natural language programming, or very simply in plain English, as you write each step and finish each step, it executes immediately. So if I were to do something like click, let's just say click save. Couple things to highlight here. The system is actually helping guide me write this step. So if ever any questions, a click's fairly simple, but writing or making an API call, or maybe it's in my JavaScript, something a little bit more in depth, I can jump into the actual documentation from here as well, but it's giving me some guardrails. So now I'll finish these double quotations. I'll hit enter. Now the test will execute this step. Now the system's looking at the DOM level to try and find the save, and then away you go. Now, sometimes with these dynamic slide outs and elements, the screenshot doesn't always do it justice, which is always nice to jump in here to say, okay, let's make sure that we found the correct save. We sure did. There's that button. After the interaction, it's starting to disappear. And that's what we're seeing here. As you can see, it's a little bit opaque here at the top and starting to go away. Now, also, maybe from here, I want to do something that's a bit more fun. I can actually right-click within the system, this embedded browser over here on the right, and create full steps without typing anything. So if I wanted to test the help functionality of the platform, I right-click on it, I say execute this step, click on help, and then away you go. The help pop-up is populated here, and you just continue on. And it really is as simple as saying, in plain English, do this, do that, write something here, much like you would tell to a colleague, or just simply right-clicking within the platform and say, okay, let's go check out. Let's see what the people are doing. Or I could scroll down. Maybe at this point, what might make a bit more sense is actually asserting that the correct articles pop up, right? Because we're creating an appointment. So it looks like the first one should be creating, editing, and deleting an appointment. And then I'll just go in, well, let's close that out. That's okay. We make sure it works. Click close. And then you just continue on down the piece. This is a good example. So what I actually did was click on the DOM level, the span. So you can come in here and again, we'll dynamically grab all of this information for you. So you don't have to go into the dev tools. If you don't want to, you absolutely can. I'll show you that here in a second. And then just say close, we'll add an element. So now it's absolutely human readable. Anybody can understand what should be happening here. Screenshot looks good. because we found the close. Yep. And then you're back about your business. Now, if you do want to go into more of that advanced mode, and I'll make the screen slide this pane a little bit, you can absolutely jump into the advanced mode and then have access to the dev tools that most testers are used to. So you have this flexibility on how you write your tests and what you can do with the system. I always say, or I like to think that as your familiarity with the platform and your level of testing complexity grows, Virtuoso will expand to meet those requirements instead of trying to make you test in a specific way. So now maybe I want to check out the practice manual, my little selector here. I have everything that I need. And then I can say, all right, let's grab full XPath and say, click here, right? You can absolutely do something that with the more advanced mode. You can see terminals, that type of thing, security application, performance metrics, the network, everything that you expect from a DevTool environment. You absolutely have access to that within Virtuoso as well. And it really is as simple as toggling in and out of it. One other nice piece, I guess I'll touch on with a little bit of extra time, is the ability to do some visual regression testing. So creating snapshots as you've seen that we've taken, if I can collect my thoughts and kind of navigate at the same time, you've seen us collect screenshots both before and after the interaction, but you can actually, in this little comparison mode, create snapshots for baselines. So you can very quickly understand that this is a fun example I built a while back. You can absolutely see how the system looks visually from months in the past compared to your baseline. Now, in this case, we're looking at all the changed elements. Obviously, a lot of that is non-visual, but you can very quickly do this image overlay mode and see in a couple of different ways, swipe, fade, comparison, that the blue couch is quite a bit lower. So if you want to take some pictures of your waiting room before your patients get to see your doctor, maybe say, well, that blue couch doesn't quite look right. Let's leave a comment for our UX UI team. They can take a look and then we can change it as necessary. Or I could jump in and say, okay, these are all great. Keep them as the new baseline and then back about your day. And you can actually, and alluding to a point that Ryan made with the document assertions, so you can validate PDF downloads. You can also validate metadata for pictures as well. So it's a little bit more advanced. Just for the sake of time, I don't think I can show you that, but you can absolutely save metadata about pictures and compare that in a logical way as well. So Ryan, I think with just a few minutes left, I guess I'll hand it back off to you. Again, that was very quick from me, so hopefully everybody at least got a high-level glimpse of how the system works and how it could be very, very powerful for you and your team, regardless of technical testing capabilities.
Nope, I absolutely think that was perfectly pitched, Todd. Leave them wanting more. I really like the way in which you showed that just how you can work across lots of different teams. And the commenting and the fact that we have unlimited access to anybody who wants to have a look at any of the tests so that they can dive into it. Equally, I think it's important to know that each test step, should I say, is shareable as a URL. So you want to send that advanced mode where the failure happened to your devs. I say it's the death of the meme, because they can always reproduce bug because they'll get in the environment, the dev tools they need to debug it, and the bug all in one URL. But anyway, that's by the by. It's now time for Q&A. We've had a few coming in. I note that you were working on Safari. Do you do full cross-browser?
Yes. Yes. It's not the all-inclusive end-all be-all, but every major browser, including mobile devices, depending upon versions, and there's some mixes in there, but yep, you can think of us as full cross-browser. We're still supporting Explorer. We do have Internet Explorer, but only one version of Internet Explorer. So that's why I say it's not the end all be all. But
I think that
that's on Internet Explorer if you want to watch stuff just break.
But I think the fact that we do support it shows the breadth of what we do. It's
Right,
not every single
absolutely.
browser in the world. Correct.
Absolutely.
Okay. I need to run API tests. Is that possible?
Absolutely. I have a couple examples, and I know many customers of ours that do full hundreds of steps of API calls and just asserting data back and forth. You can absolutely do that.
Wonderful. And our final one, the self-healing looks great, but what if it's not? Can I turn it on and off?
Yes. Yeah, you absolutely can. I've talked to a couple of customers that will intersperse or pick a specific element and say the option or what it says in the platform is never heal this element. So if anything ever changes holistically, where it is in the DOM, the XPath, the structure itself, if anything changes in the slightest, fail the test. Now, you also have the option of failing that specific step and letting the test continue. So you have the ability to say, even though that this element may have changed, or if this test, when we turn it off, you can still continue the test, even if a specific step fails.
Good. Have we got any more for any more? The bell is tolled. So it just remains for me to say, if there is anything we've not covered, you do have any other questions, we have a free trial. Go and try for yourself. You don't need sales and marketing to push it down your throat. We believe in our product, and we think you should all have a go. But equally, it's very easy to use, but very powerful. So if you do have any questions or concerns or things you don't think we can do, get in touch. We probably can at virtuoso.qa. It just remains for me to thank Todd for being here. Thank you, Todd, for your expert skill.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
And thank you, everybody, for joining in. I know that time on webinars is under pressure at the moment, so it's lovely to have you all here. And it remains for me to say ciao, ciao for now. Ciao, ciao.
Thanks, everyone.